Crisis containment protocol stops being theory, arbitration and access become a mandatory layer of trust architecture without which even a correct decision never reaches execution. Practice descends into territory. Vassal administrations demand a clear model of foreign institutional presence, without dissolving local sovereignty and without turning the street into a negotiation hall. Localization phase. Branches live the everyday of vassal zones under dual control of law, infrastructure, and public trust. Interblock Commission Licensing Hall. On the screen, Cylon Navigation, Irma Prevo Audit. Behind the wall of the hall comes the muted queue of pilot applications. Local operators, receiving side lawyers, and branch representatives speak under their breath so waiting does not become a demonstration. The city is already trying on foreign presence not by speech, but by how many windows open tomorrow morning.
We accept affiliates, but we do not want to wake up in a year and discover that economic presence has become quiet annexation through wages, warehouses, and standards.
The Lin Republic delegate speaks softly. On the screen tag Irma Law Audit, the phrase quiet annexation rings louder than any shout.
Branches operate as node holders. That's already the case. No extraterritoriality.
Kelvin shifts from the jurisdiction map to the node seal. For the Reich, receiving side law is not a concession at the table but an operating contour.
And plus a mirror audit once a quarter. If the rules are violated, the license is suspended automatically.
Marzides pulls a quarterly mirror audit cycle onto the flank panel. Rule breaches kill the license without a queue for corridor explanations.
Then the Lin Republic opens pilot licenses.
The delegate's restrained line opens the pilot license column. The fight is no longer whether to exist but what shape entry takes in a foreign city.
A pilot is not a gift, it is an exam. We watch how a promise lives in someone else's city.
The Lin Republic delegate looks past the table as if at the street beyond the hall. A pilot tests a promise where no deck can rescue it.
Confirmed. The Reich does not trade in legends, because a legend here is more dangerous than a contract. It quickly turns an affiliate into a symbol of foreign control.
Kelvin does not nod for applause. He waits for verifiable milestones on the shared screen, not another legend of intent.
Past the line, extra words are replaced by arbitration's light.
Past the line on the schematic, arbitration lights up for the delegate. Where tone is usually bargained, only procedural light remains.
Locals will see. No one is sold a special path.
Kelvin addresses not the table but the imagined street beyond the doors. Locals must not be sold a special path in place of node rules.
And we openly describe what we straightened, otherwise trust is captured by whoever lies louder.
The delegate demands open description of corrections, otherwise trust goes to whoever lies loudest about pilot success. After baseline licensing is aligned, the tone shifts noticeably. The question is no longer whether branches should launch, but how to embed them into local institutional fabric without eroding identity or civic trust. What remains in the room are staffing quote clauses and public control mechanics, exactly the layer where economically clean schemes usually fail first.
Branches do not come to rewrite your order, but to integrate into it according to your laws and regulations.
Kelvin sweeps a palm along node holder regulations on screen. Branches slot into foreign order. They do not rewrite it to a Reich template.
Local personnel quotas and a mandatory public control council at branches.
The Lin Republic delegate insists on personnel quotas and a public oversight council. This is where paper-perfect schemes usually snap.
Fear of assimilation is removed not by Reich words, but by the local society's right to see an affiliate's burden and stop its growth.
Kelvin answers half-voice, yet accepted hits the log at once. He measures fear of assimilation by civilian circuit transparency, not promises.
And a separate item, a public report on the cultural and social load of new projects.
The delegate brings cultural and social load reporting to the fore. For the Lin Republic, a new project without accounting is blind weight on local life.
Economic presence should enhance local peace, not displace it.
Kelvin agrees without theater. On the schematic he does not nudge a single line toward displacement, though the hall is ready to applaud compromise. After political legal alignment, the discussion naturally moves into the engineering contour, where each adopted norm must become an executable launch sequence without loss of local control. The evening INEA session strips diplomatic packaging away. Interfaces, segmentation, and access boundaries now decide whether branches enter the system as partner infrastructure or hidden dependence. INEA Technical Hub. The diagram shows Feud Mainframe and Livia Clearinghouse.
We need a startup without stopping the local industry.
At INEA's technical node, Ultraruel Rocks watches the dock schematic. Launch without halting local industry is a quota condition, not an evening session slogan.
We do it step by step. First the dock interfaces, then load tests, then the full circuit.
May spreads 3 phases on screen at dock interfaces, load tests, full circuit as a ladder, not a single ready button.
and mandatory segmentation. Commercial networks separately, strategic networks separately, closed systems out of access.
Lays draws dividers between commercial and strategic nets. Closed systems stay beyond a line where foreign access cannot enter even under maintenance pretense.
If you meet the deadline, A.T.R will expand the quota for branches. Here what wins is not launch speed but the calm of the next cycle.
Alterul Rocks does not bargain for speed on A.T.R schematic. Tomorrow's cycle calm wins first, only then will branch quota widen.
Exactly. Opposite every promise, a measurable tail.
May sets a short measurable tail opposite each promise. Without the tail, a deadline stays a pretty phrase on the Carcase feud May schematic.
If the tail crosses the threshold, we bring in outside eyes without ceremony.
Alterul Rocks does not soften the wording. If the tail crosses the threshold, outside eyes flip on without ceremony, like fault lighting on a route.
Then local industry does not become hostage to someone else's optimism.
May watches local workshop contours on the schematic. Foreign optimism must not make them hostages of someone else's launch chart.
And publishing corrections is the system washing its face, not shameful, necessary.
Alterul Rocks calls publishing corrections the system washing its face. Shame is not the argument here, refusing open correction is. Once the primary launch schedule is agreed, the technical conversation drops into a more sensitive layer who retains control over critical nodes and under which boundaries. Admin access logs and emergency contours dominate the screen. This is where partnership is separated from dependency, and trust from polished engineering rhetoric.
For the launch to be fair, A.T.R must maintain control over key components and the right to emergency shutdown.
May returns key nodes and emergency shutdown to the center screen. For A.T.R, an honest launch starts where sovereignty is not hidden behind a pretty interface.
Two-circuit model, joint management of the commercial layer and local control of the strategic layer.
Lays splits the screen into commercial and strategic circuits so neither layer hides the other's decisions behind joint management.
And a transparent log of admin access, so that there are no hidden technical interventions under the guise of maintenance.
May pulls the admin access log onto the flank panel. Every maintenance line must stay visible, or technical intervention wears regulations mask again.
I support. This will protect both your sovereignty and our responsibility for the stability of the system.
Lays sets an agreement mark beside the log. Node holder sovereignty and stability responsibility write one visible ribbon, not two closed versions.
Then launching branches will become a technology partnership, not a dependency.
May closes the admin log layer onto the launch schedule. Partnership here is measured by a contour that does not hide its hand under maintenance. As the technical node closes debate on sovereignty and admin access, focus shifts to public-level ratification where all contours must converge into one governance map. The Morning Council in Mira becomes a structural integrity check, whether law, finance, and infrastructure are aligned enough for scaling to proceed without outrunning institutional control. Great Council Hall. On the table is Register of Reich branches in Miradin vassals, Package 1.
I legally confirm the launch of 8 branches in agreed jurisdictions.
Irma opens the branch register on the council table. 8 jurisdictions take a legal mark while the number still matches the screen map.
The financial and insurance circuits are ready. Risks are distributed across sectors.
Lydia spreads sector risk columns on the finance panel. The insurance circuit holds 8 branches not as one blot but as a distributed mesh.
The Empire confirms the admission of branches to vassal zones according to the control protocol.
Titan overlays the Imperial Control Protocol on the register's vassal zones. Branch admission is not a mercy gesture but a clearance line with verification.
Reich confirms that branches are a tool of cooperation, not pressure.
Kelvin locks the Reich wording beside the register. Cooperation must read in the open part before the street names a branch pressure.
Then launch it. The system is stable as long as the rules are stronger than ambitions.
Zelnaga drops a palm on the meeting register. Launch without theater. The timestamp must go shared before ambitions fork the text. Divergent readings of one threaded branch launch remind Zelnaga of a closed Lotus session. They pinned a shared thread window so Reich and Empire read one priority line, otherwise arbitration turned into parallel legends. Lotus, closed session, and Empire duty officer already shipped their reading to headquarters.
Our version is already at HQ.
Then we publish both readings and a timestamp to window close. One thread, 2 texts cannot stand.
Zelnaga makes a locket gesture, not decorative, operational. A palm drops beside the meeting register as if checking the timestamp will go shared before the next line.
So at branch launch the same rule, one incident, one set of lines for both capitals. Otherwise we gift the street pair legends instead of a table.
Titan collapses the incident on-screen into one line set for both capitals. Parallel legends cost more here than waiting for wording to match.
And we wire the financial service to it immediately. Two versions in one report aren't soft tone. They're a tripwire.
Livia wires the finance contour to dual report versions. Line divergence paints a tripwire at once, not a soft tone for the corridor.
Acceptable. Better one hard line than two convenient ones.
Kelvin leaves one hard sync line on the panel. Two convenient versions for the street become pair legends again between refreshes. For a second only vent noise and a quiet panel sync click fill the hall, as if the system itself waits to see whether readings diverge before lunch.
8 branches, 8 vows to keep reporting steady pulse.
Irma sets 8 marks on the register to 1 reporting pulse. Each branch must hit the shared stamp, not its own convenient corridor.
The financial symphony holds only while everyone listens to one word: deadline.
Livia puts the word deadline on all 8 contours timeline. The symphony tears where someone hears the deadline as a recommendation.
A broken rhythm is not traded for corridor explanations, only for procedure.
Irma closes the corridor explanation field in the report draft. A broken rhythm goes only into procedure, or the street buys a pretty version again.
Then the poison of asymmetry does not settle in the foundation.
Livia slides the comparative version table toward the package foundation. Asymmetry's poison must not settle between 2 panel refreshes.
And for the street, a dry sheet of fixes. No heroics, clarity on what moved.
Irma lays out the dry correction sheet template. No heroics, only lines on what moved, or the market paints a third version between capitals. Irma's dry sheet lands for Livia as a habit from Concordat Night ledgers. Both sides publish a correction on one timestamp, or the market paints a third version between the lines. Bankers Guild Night Desk, Concordat Prep Contour, 2 clocks on the wall. Reich and Miradin, and 1 line, correction publish.
Miradin panel is 17 seconds late.
Then we don't make it pretty. Hold until the stamp matches. 17 seconds is cheaper than an hour of false unison.
Let the street hear the pause as discipline, not weakness.
Discipline is when the dry sheet is not late relative to the clock. Otherwise it becomes a press release again.
From the italic night in the protocol, Livia turns her gaze, not like leaving a stage, but like leaving a draft that still has to become an operational line before the next panel refresh.
We'll put the 17 seconds in the register appendix. Without the appendix, the street will write its own drama.
Kelvin writes 17 seconds into the register appendix. The pause must live in the open tail, or the street will invent drama between stamps.
Then a reason has to stand beside the pause. Otherwise it isn't discipline, it's emptiness.
Irma adds a mandatory reason line beside the pause field. Without it, 17 seconds become emptiness. Another version will fill.
One reason: waiting for stamp match. If that phrase isn't in the open part, the pause becomes feed for other versions.
Titan locks the open part phrase waiting for stamp match. Without it, the pause feeds other versions faster than sync can click. Vent noise and another quiet sync click return, as if reminding everyone both capitals are still in one refresh window until someone improves the text in a side channel.
We'll move the wording into the ANIA corporate contour early. Guard window and pass minute must live in one table, not 2 pretty decks.
May collapses guard window and pass minute into 1 row on the ANIA corporate table. 2 decks here would split stamps again before publication.
Then the dry sheet stops being literary garnish and becomes a synchronization condition. Like in the night desk, only daylight is less forgiving of drift.
Livia ties the dry sheet to the dual timer on the panel, a sync condition, not garnish. Daylight forgives stamp drift less than the night desk. On the ANIA sector screen, Altrual Rocks gives a short nod, a gesture without theater, like a signature on a projected route, accepted for execution. The same insistence on an open line reaches the ANIA corporate node. Their deadline reads as minutes until pass expiry and guard windows on gray zone routes. On the public dashboard, Ala Rocks holds synchronization. Even hope is formalized as an estimate. The route map on her screen pulls memory toward ANIA gray corridors where deficit node contraband was a timetable, not romance of shadow. ANIA, intersector hanger, Ala checks a gray zone route against a guard window. 1 minute wrong turns a run into a clan excuse for reprisal.
Pass expires.
Then we don't ask permission from Pretty Protocol. We change the entry point.
Ala collapses the gray zone hanger into a rule of open accountability. Routes live by minute and window, or interblock audit becomes decor again. She lifts her eyes from the screen to the corporate indicators sector. A draft open corridor for the first branch package already glows there, not a slogan, but a table of passes and reserve points. Ala traces the table with a short gesture, like a rail: pass first, then guard window, then reserve. For a second she hears the old hanger echo, but the screen keeps her in the present. Here a minute error becomes a line in the common register, not a clan reprisal, if they aren't allowed to fix it off camera.
If the open corridor draft goes public without simulation, we hand the street a pretty picture again.
Altrual Rocks holds the open corridor draft on the ANIA sector panel. The simulation layer must burn through before the street sees a finished picture.
Then simulation isn't an engineering recommendation, but a mandatory verification layer. Otherwise it's decor again.
Irma rewrites the checklist item. Simulation moves out of recommendations into a mandatory gate, or the open corridor becomes decor again.
May moves a finger toward the simulation row on the adjacent panel, not like a button, but like a reminder. Here a minute is cheaper in the meeting register only if both capitals already agreed to read the same timestamp.
If we give branches pretty readiness without stamp match now, tomorrow the same corridor becomes ammunition in a sanctions fight.
Livia compares two readiness stamps on the branch panel. A seconds wide gap glows as tomorrow's sanctions argument, not as almost matched.
Then we fix in the open part. Simulation is a mandatory layer before a public slot, not an optional schedule polish.
Irma locks layer order in the open register line. Simulation first, public slot second, no optional schedule polish.
And let the register appendix carry a blank line if the second stamp didn't match. Blank is more honest than painted success.
Kelvin leaves a blank row in the register appendix. The second stamp missed, and no one paints success over the gap.
We aren't selling the street unison. We're selling two clocks agreeing.
Titan aligns two capital time ribbons on the main screen. The street is not sold unison but two clocks meeting on one stamp. For a second only ventilation is audible in the hall, as if everyone is testing themselves against the temptation to say almost matched. May does not raise her voice. For an engineer, almost is already politics here.
If you only get to lose the minute once, lose it in simulation, not in the meeting register.
May drags the lost minute into Ania's night simulation contour. The meeting register carries no debt until both stamps match. How May frames losing the minute returns May to a night rehearsal in Ania. There the guard window simulation cleared the emergency objection before a deck could sweet-talk it, otherwise the branch's first public corridor would have lived less than a minute outside the common register. Ania, corporate layer before the public branch package, a simulation hall, dual timer, and a guard window screen.
19 seconds askew on the Miradin panel.
Stop. Nothing goes outward until both stamps match, even if the briefing room is waiting.
That hits image.
Image is cheaper than a fake success by the minute. A minute in simulation is a tax, a minute in the register is a debt.
We already tested the simulation under political pressure. What remains is not flinching at the first live emergency objection.
Lays does not dim the first live emergency objection on the board. The stress run is done. A hall tests whether anyone will hide the rupture.
A emergency objection isn't shame. Shame is hiding it while the warehouse overheats.
Altrual Rocks keeps the warehouse overheat emergency objection on the shared layer. Shame is not the signal but hiding it while the node burns. Alla briefly checks with Altrual on the incentive table, not as rivals, but as people signing the same one line for the street. Two signatures without a closed appendix keep the corridor straighter than any soft tone.
I won't give branches a pretty report without a guard window. Guard time is part of the deadline.
Alla Rocks ties the guard window to the deadline column in branch reports. Without it, no pretty sheet goes public.
Then I won't trade technical downtime as an excuse either. Open record, or no conversation.
Altrual Rocks kills the technical downtime template on the flank panel. Open log entry or the talk ends. The hall catches that as echo of old schemes, but the echo is cut by the figure on screen. The new route is no longer signed by arrangement, it's threaded through the common register. Altrual opens an adjacent layer, not politics, but a dry grid, who certifies the guard window and where the reserve point lives if the first slot slips. Alla picks up the gesture, two hands over one table, without theater of consent.
If the reserve point lives only in a closed appendix, the street will hear technical downtime as a fairy tale again.
Alla Rocks pulls the reserve point out of the closed appendix into the open table, or technical downtime becomes a street fairy tale again.
Then the reserve point is in the open part, but without the closed contour address. An ugly compromise, yet checkable.
Altrual Rocks places the reserve stamp in the open line and leaves the closed contour address under seal. Ugly, yet checkable.
Ugly checkable beats pretty lying. I pin the mark on screen before anyone gets to call it an image risk.
May pins the control mark on screen before the hall can say image risk. Ugly checkable over pretty lying. Lise nods, barely visible, an engineer's agreement that the next emergency objection must not be born from someone else's press release. May briefly pins a control mark on the screen as if drawing a line between talk of a future branch and memory of how a corridor broke for someone else's version. The same insistence on one line returns Altrual Rocks to underground Ania, where logistics broke on purpose for power. Ania, underground HQ of a Miradin intelligence special agent staging a coup before the world's imperial integration.
Route map tiles flare crisis assessment as the cell prepares a controlled logistics rupture for its political script. Back then he was still a graduate of the Youth Special Agent Academy from Mira, House Rocks, not a governor's signature on an open panel, but a bet on coup inside ANIA's administrative contour.
Where's the first rupture?
West Route Com node.
And after that?
By the port dispatcher and lock the corridor to our version.
If they convene an interblock commission?
Let them. By then the corridor will already be offline for technical reasons.
The corridor rupture staged for committees reminds him what branch isolation costs. Technical downtime only held under closed interblock verification, so open registry for him is not ornament but antidote.
If anyone tries a closed corridor, again under branches, arbitration gets the right to halt a node without a political preamble round.
IRMA adds arbitration's right to halt a node without a political preamble if anyone repeats a closed corridor under branches.
And the cause register, public from hour 1. Otherwise we feed two audiences two fairy tales again.
Zelnaga opens the cause register on the public vitrine from hour 1 to two audiences do not get different fairy tales about one rupture.
The Empire backs this not from softness. From pragmatism, two tales turn into a strike faster than any document.
Titan confirms the Imperial line without softness, two tales for different halls become a strike faster than any signed document.
The Reich too. An open line is cheaper than buying trust back after technical maintenance.
Kelvin mirrors the Reich's assent, an open register line is cheaper than buying trust back after technical maintenance. The approved package seal clicks on the table, a dry sound that pulls the room from underground memory back to next quarter scheduling. After the first package is approved, a working pause settles in the hall and the core question shifts from result to tempo of the next step. Political pressure favors fast expansion, but both understand that without stability filters and conflict sector gates, the system can fracture precisely at growth velocity.
The first package has been approved. But if we expand the map without pausing for analysis, we create our own vulnerability.
The first package seal clicks on the table, Titan holds the map expansion. Without an analysis pause, growth becomes its own vulnerability.
The next wave is only after the quarterly review. Infrastructure sustainability, legal regime and social effect.
Kelvin locks the next wave behind quarterly review, infrastructure sustainability, legal regime, and social effect in one table, not in haste.
And a separate filter for conflict sectors. Launch there is possible only with a positive conclusion of the arbitration.
Titan highlights conflict sectors with a separate filter, launch only with positive arbitration conclusion, not political speed.
I support. Scaling should be based on the quality of management and not on political speed.
Kelvin moves the scaling slider onto the management quality axis, political speed no longer sets the next wave's tempo. Quarterly breaking in management quality filters reminds Zelnaga of the Trazim colony, where a short prediction horizon had to be tied to gate closures and verification logs, otherwise rescued wording became a new perimeter of self-deception. Hell's third invasion of Trazim, Ash cuts visibility to tens of meters, Zelnaga reads the next breach window into the shared lattice so the evacuation corridor stays on a timestamp, not a slogan.
First line, gate close time. Second, headcount already confirmed at the nodes. Without that we don't get an institution of holding the line. We get a queue of pretty promises.
Forecast on the sector diverges by 3 minutes.
Then the 3-minute uncertainty band goes into the register as an amendment to action, not as an excuse to argue.
Zelnaga keeps Trazim's rule, uncertainty must land in the register before argument, otherwise the holding institution splits again into two legends of one threat.
Then the system will have a chance to grow without breaking into a new confrontation.
Titan drops a first package closed mark onto the shared scale, growth gets a chance not to snap into fresh confrontation while the quarter and arbitration hold the filter.